Okay. Hey, friend.
Hi, friend.
Good to see you. So we're doing this for DBT-LBC, and I was wondering if you wanted to just introduce yourself to some folks who may not yet know you.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Kiki Fehling. I'm a licensed psychologist. I use pronouns they and she, and I'm currently living in Western Massachusetts, where I am licensed, but I'm not currently seeing clients. So I am a DBT-LBC certified clinician. And most recently, I practice in a group practice in Manhattan, NYCBT. That was a few years ago now, and ever since then, once I stopped practice, I've been focusing all of my time on writing books, creating social media content, speaking, kind of doing the work of getting DBT out there to people who don't know what it is and or know what it is and can't find it in adherent typical therapy form and still would benefit from learning about it. Um, and I've really loved that, which is why I've kept doing that rather than going back to therapy. I might go back to therapy one day, but for now, dissemination is the name of my game. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's me in a nutshell in terms of professional, at least.
Oh my gosh, because your books are right behind you.
They are. Yes, they are. Thank you.
Well, and you just came out with the new one, like the LGBTQ plus mental health workbook. And so I was
Yeah.
kind of curious, um, what was the inspiration for that book?
Yeah, so when I was in Manhattan working as a clinician, while I was there, I was able to help found and then coordinate the LGBTQ affirmative DBT program at my practice, which specializes in inherent DBT. And I wanted to do that because my research well, actually, first off, I'm queer. I feel like that's worth saying. And my research in grad school also was focused on LGBTQ plus mental health. And I'd already been so aware of the ways that queer folks are often struggling with the types of difficulties that cause people to look for DBT. And a lot of my clients were queer. And I also knew the ways that queer people need queer affirmative or queer specific type of interventions and adaptations to make their therapy even more helpful. And so I did that at NYCBT. And in the process, in helping my clients build their lives worth living and figure out how to live lives that they wanted to live, it really, really helped me in turn overcome conditioned shame, cope with the stressfulness of the world. And I think a lot of therapy does this, but that program and that work in particular really helped change me and transform my life. And I wanted to share that wisdom that my clients and I found together through that process because not only is DBT not as available as we want it to be, of course, but certainly like queer affirmative DBT is not accessible. Even queer affirmative therapy in general is not as accessible as we wish it were. So trying to get this information into the hands of queer folks who need it.
I super love this because you're kind of highlighting two things, right? Like one, this is a these are skills, this is a treatment that works, and also like the inaccessibility piece.
Yeah.
Because I think for a lot of folks that we work with, unless they have the funds or unless they have insurance, and also there aren't enough DBT clinicians for all the
Hmm.
folks who need DBT treatment.
Yeah, totally. And we know at DBT-LBC, obviously, like adherence is important, and some folks need comprehensive DBT and in its full adherence. And there's so many people, even the people who just would benefit, who need adherent DBT, who could benefit from just the skills. And that's much more able to be made accessible to people at a larger level, a cheaper level. So that's what the book is about too.
I mean, these are skills that are helpful for all humans.
Literally, life skills, right? Yeah.
I have a friend who calls them tricks for living. Like
Aha, tricks for a living. I like
tricks
that.
for living. Yeah, just a way to be human, a way to like navigate a world that isn't always set up for all parts of us,
Yeah.
in like all the ways. So, you and I are both queer. We're, both wearing super fun shirts and stuff like this. And so
Yeah.
I listened to your BPD Alliance chat, that was put out, I think, on YouTube several weeks ago. So for folks, like this is a really awesome resource. We're not going to replicate that because you had this lovely PowerPoint presentation. And you talked about queer joy. And I think for some folks, this may be a little bit amorphous. So what does that mean?
Hmm.
Joy.
Queer joy. So the way that I view queer joy is it's doing things that evoke pleasure and pleasant emotions in your queerness. So usually it's going to be things that are affirming queerness, that are connecting you to your full authentic self as a queer person, or celebrating queerness really explicitly, whether it's your own queerness or the queerness of others. And one of the distinctions, and maybe this is what you're talking about from that webinar, one of the distinctions I make is it's not just like being queer and feeling joy, and it's not feeling joy in spite of being queer in a world that is queerphobic. It's being joyful because we are queer. And it's also a variety of pleasant emotions. Like, so not just euphoria or like the out in the street waving pride flags, like exuberance. It can be much softer and gentler and like contentment or satisfaction. It can be quieter. And I still count that as queer joy because I think that for a lot of folks, queer folks who are struggling with their mental health, sometimes the picture of people out to drag brunch or at the Pride Parade feels super inaccessible, whether because
Mhm.
they are not out or they're not in a safe place to be out, or it doesn't feel emotionally possible. So that's why I say I'm using the word joy, but I define it as like any positive emotion that's being prompted by those affirming, connecting, celebrating type experiences.
And I think this is super helpful that you're describing that it's one, a continuum, and two, it's
Mm-hmm.
videographic,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? Like it is personal to whomever it is who is queer. Like I have a trans teen I'm working with who isn't able at this moment in time to transition medically and isn't
Mm-hmm.
able to transition socially. And so for her, like wearing a hairband on her wrist for her long hair is like, oh, I'm doing this thing that to me signals like, hey, this is who I am. And for other
Mm.
folks, they're just like, oh, it's just how you manage your hair. Right. And so the meaning of this hairband is so profound for her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
also like super subtle.
Yeah.
So
I
it seems
I love
like
that.
that may be like for her a practice of queer joy.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's where you can get into just like gender euphoria specifically as an
Mhm.
experience that also has a lot of diversity and maybe really loud or really soft, just queer pleasure broadly defined. And I think it comes back to the way we think about this in DBT in general about living a life worth living, right? Like that life. Yeah, in science, in psychological science, maybe we understand there are certain things that consistently lead to more pleasure, joy, connection, fulfillment for folks. But at the end of the day, it's really up to each person to figure that out for themselves. What are your values? What do you like? What are you passionate about?
Oh my
And
gosh.
define it for yourself. Otherwise, it's not going to give you that fulfillment that we're trying to get you with DBT.
100% because this is about effectiveness,
Yeah, right,
right?
exactly.
It's like doing what works. And I think it can be really hard, especially for a lot of folks I work with who are highly sensitive and who've also been exposed to so much invalidation. Like there is this comparison of like, I'm not queer enough. I am not doing these things in the right way. Like I'm not going out, like you said, to like Pride or drag brunch,
Hmm.
or I'm not like socially transitioning or medically transitioning in these ways. Like I have someone I'm working with who, when he told like this group of like trans men that he wasn't going to get bottom surgery, they were
Hmm.
like, you're not really trans.
Hmm.
What? Like,
Yeah,
so, like, oh my God, he was heartbroken,
yeah, uh-huh.
right? To be
Like the
rejected by this
judgment.
group
Hmm.
of people who we thought, like, hey, we've got like all these things in common, like, we have shared experiences. And it was just super duper hard for him.
Yeah. I, yeah, I think that judgment coming in from the queer community itself is also like a particular type of heartbreak, like you're saying, for my clients. And I think this is where I'd be so curious if this resonates for you as a queer person of color, but like for me as like a bi person who often faces like specific types of stigma, specifically from within the queer community, it can be particularly alienating and heartbreaking when you don't fit whatever this cultural script is of like what queerness is supposed to look like and how you're supposed to perform queerness, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like there's um speaking of skills, like there's a lot of fear, and there isn't this mindfulness to that fear. Because I
Yeah.
suspect, and this is just a hypothesis, like the folks who rejected the person I was working with, um, I think they had a lot of fear around
Hmm.
their own like sense of personhood, masculinity, whatever it is, like what it meant for them to be a trans man. Like this is what I
Hmm.
have to do. And there was some rigidity there, as
Hmm.
opposed to this fluidity in terms of like, hey, maybe it's not wise-minded for this one individual to have to go through all this, like to go through bottom surgery, which is like one, really painful, like two, he also doesn't have the funds for it. And three, like he's got other life stressors that are going on that would make it kind of impossible for him to have like X amount of time for recovery.
Yeah. Right. Right. So beyond maybe just like the intrinsic desire for that not being there in terms of either gender euphoria or gender dysphoria right now, there's
Mhm.
so many reasons why he can't do that that are
Right,
not in his control. And like for that to be a reason to be gate kept from his identity,
right.
right, is further invalidation.
Totally, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. And oof, my brain when I talk about things like this always comes up to like detransitioners too and how uncomfortable even like both sides of the political ideologies are and how folks it's like my mind always comes back to like the dialectical principle of change is constant. And there are some people like to be absolutely clear, know who they are, go that way and then never change that identity in queerness or not queerness. But
Sure.
then there's so many people who learn new things about themselves as life goes on, and there's no wrong or right way to be whoever you are, right? And there is this journey of figuring that out that I don't know. I think DBT is so helpful for that really common queer experience of figuring out who I am, not judging myself along the way when things don't go how I expect them to, or when other people don't expect them to go for me the way that they expect them to go for me.
Hmm.
And continually coming back to, as you're saying, like wise mind, what is my life worth living? What is my truth and my authentic self? And how can I keep figuring that out just in this moment?
Oh, for sure. And I can only imagine for folks who, whether they're transitioning, detransitioning, or like just trying on different experiences, like the intensity of invalidation from people who don't understand and who aren't privy to like the internal experiences and the thoughts and the processing, the emotions and whatnot. Like,
Hmm.
um, I have a trans non-binary youth I'm working with who, when we started working together, was like trying to find all the ways to like pass as mask. And at this moment in time, like they came in the other day and they're like, yeah, I just got a couple of tank tops and they're like more feminine fitting and I'm growing out my hair and like they had nails done. And I was like, so this is amazing. Like I super love that you in this moment are experiencing less dysphoria. Like tell me what is happening for you. And they were like, yeah, I figured out that I was trying to like look like a cis het dude.
Mm.
And I'm not a cis het dude. And I was like, you go, you go, right? Like,
Yes.
whatever it is that is cueing, like you said, this gender euphoria at this moment in time for you. Okay, so like you have these
Yes.
pickups, and they were like, yeah, now I guess I have to go and find a bra. Like, because
I guess
I
so,
only
yeah.
have sports bras and like I only have sports bras and whatchamacallsums, like the like other compression wear.
Oh, like binders. Yeah.
Like binders. Yeah, thanks. My brain just went, I forgot the word. Um, so it was this moment of like just radically genuine joy
hmm
for like, oh, I'm figuring out my path. Like,
hmm
yeah, I'm gonna come in with like baggy cargo shorts because this is how I roll, and like this tank top. Great.
Yeah.
Do you?
I'm so yeah.
For
I'm so
you.
glad for them, and I'm so glad that they had you. And I think it really gets at like I've seen this for myself and with clients. Like this, I think was part of the work of realizing the way, and I say this in my book, that like honestly, gender in DBT terms is like judgments. Like when you get down to it,
Yeah.
the gendered expressions of masculinity and femininity, like they are culture bound. Like they're not
Mhm.
universal.
Mm-mm.
And so they kind of I mean, this is another reason dialectics are so helpful because on one hand, they break down as soon as you try to behaviorally describe them.
Yeah.
And of course, like they're real to whoever they're real to, right? Like you, that's the kind of the point that we're getting at. You get to define for yourself what does it mean for your client to be masculine or androgynous. I'm not sure what, and I forget what pronouns you use now, but like what that person would feel like fit them best.
Hmm.
And we all get to decide that, just as you said, coming back to mindfulness in this moment, what is feeling good, like prideful, happy, satisfied, fulfilling, whatever it is, connected, right?
Hmm.
And keep using that as information to figure out the bigger picture of how can we live a life that feels worth living, to go back to
100 pounds. Oh, I was about to say 100 pounds. I mean, 100%,
it.
because it's values based as opposed to rule bound,
Yeah.
right? And I think just in terms of, the work that we're doing to support our gender diverse clients, right? Like having,
hmm
like writing letters for gender affirming surgery is a thing that I do as a way of supporting
hmm
my um, clients. And it is so frustrating that we have to go through all this gatekeeping for people to
Yeah.
have what it is that they need. And, I'm not going to go off on a political thing, but just observing like the ways in which validation for so many people we work with is, I think, really functional in like overt acceptance, in terms of overt expression and just doing the things that we can to help people, to facilitate people being who they are
hmm hmm
and moving them towards having more of this, a life that they want to live.
Yeah. I think this is another dialectical tension that comes up in therapy all the time that is worth pointing out explicitly, of even like in writing those letters, for example, the
Mhm.
standards are often requiring you to demonstrate on behalf of the client the ways in which they've consistently wanted this, right? And a lot of times that requires the clinician to engage in stereotyped language about what masculinity and femininity are, for example.
Right.
And I think it's a good example of like dialectical tension of how can we help a person find who they are, practice queer joy, gender euphoria, be their queer authentic self exactly how they want to, just regardless of what's around them, while recognizing interconnectedness, and how maybe your mask client paints their nails and then has someone view that as femme, and that changes how they feel about it, right? That they live in a world that has gendered expectations and gendered views and gender stereotypes and gender judgments. And then, as we were talking about before, like, what does it mean to be queer and be read as queer? That maybe something in that doesn't resonate with you personally, but you want to do it in order to like fit in. And you get to dialectically decide what is more important for me in this moment, what's effective for me to like just do what I want to do, period, or to do what I feel like I need to do in order to fit in or to have other people read me and respond to me the way I want them to. Like that can
Mhm.
have contradictory motivations or contradictory outcomes if you go one way or the other. And finding that dialectical integration wise mind is like really hard sometimes and really important. That's a common clinical struggle with queer folks.
Oh, for sure. And the thing about wise mind is that, like, in one context, it may be one response, in another context, it may be another response,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Like, there's so much fluidity with that. It used to be, like, even several years ago, I would get misgendered going to the bathroom, and my reaction would be like really intense. Like, I would glare at the
Mm,
person, and it was just out of anger. And I don't have time for that now. Like, maybe it's maturity. I'm not sure. I'm entering the second half of my life, the back half of my life, and I'm just thinking I don't actually
hmm
want to hold so much anger and rage anymore. And
mm,
it had a function, I think, at some point in time in terms of, me using the fast skill and expressing like this is who I am. And it's not that I'm any less self-respecting, but when I see
mm-mm,
somebody trying to figure out, like, are you a boy? Are you a girl? Like, what are you? Or maybe they're trying to figure out my ethnicity. I have no idea. They're just trying to figure out like who I am as human, I guess. Like, my initial response now is to make direct eye contact and to just smile and say hello.
mm, hmm
And the thing that I've noticed just in terms of transactions is that it's a way to signal like, hey, yo, I'm human. Like, I don't need to be in a box. I know who I
hmm
am. You actually don't need to know who I am. Just know that I know who I am and I know where I'm going.
Yeah,
And I can see like transactionally, like they just kind of like melt a little bit. And most oftentimes, like 99% of the time, we'll like return a smile. And then we just go on our way.
yeah,
And it's not like this hostile encounter that I'm just
hmm
ruminating about for like hours afterwards. And so I think this is
totally.
part of, for me, like a practice of queer joy in the sense like, I know who I am. Y'all don't have to, like, none of your business. It's none of yours.
hmm
Like,
I love that. Yeah. Uh, yes. And it speaks to the ways in which it even sounds like you identified the more anger and standing up for yourself as fast skills. And at the same time,
Mhm.
I also hear what you're doing now as fast skills, you know? Like again,
Mhm.
it depends on the context.
And it's changed, right? Like over time, I am no less like irritated and frustrated. I mean, maybe I am less irritated and frustrated, but like I'm just not letting it sit with me and hang on to me the way it used to
Hmm Yeah.
because it's just not effective anymore.
Yeah, I love that for you. And I certainly am trying to do that myself in various ways. But the thing that knowing like where this conversation is going to be, the thing that's coming to mind in this moment is this idea, I think, is also one of the reasons why I'm consistently recommending to cishet, straight, and cisgender therapists to do their own work around gender and sexuality, to be aware of what those identities are for themselves. How do they think about masculinity, femininity? How do they, like, what are the messages they've learned? Because because gender in the ways we're talking about is interactional, and there's so many
Mhm.
different ways that it can come up with a client, not even necessarily in a discriminatory or microaggressive way, but just like it's there. And when we don't, as clinicians, haven't done that work ourselves, that can more easily negatively, actually, it can negatively impact anybody, but especially queer and trans clients because of
Oh,
coming into the bathroom, like you're saying, and having judgments at the person there. That happens in the therapy room too. So,
oh, 100%. 100%. I had a student I was supervising years ago who was working with a transgender client, and she was trying to get this client to be more active in activism, like
ah,
around their trans identity. And I was just like, I don't think that's the client's priority at this moment in time from what you're sharing. Like, this isn't
yeah,
something they want to do.
yeah,
So why are you putting it on them?
yeah.
Like, sure, you go ahead and do the advocacy. That's cool. And how's
hmm
about if you let them live? Like, you just let them live the life that they want to live, right? This person just wants to garden. They just want to cook. They just want to live in their, like, little community. That's it.
hmm
They just want to be,
hmm
here we are.
hmm
That's their life worth living goal.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the exact experience when I was working with so many different queer clients of seeing the different ways that they defined it for themselves and being in that context, being really good at like helping them see judgments and challenge them and figure out what it is that they actually wanted. That I was like, oh, right, like what are the boxes and expectations that I'm holding on for myself? Do I actually want to do that or not? And like not putting that on other people, especially other queer people, because we definitely police ourselves in a lot of ways too, in that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like what's appropriate and what's acceptable queerness or what is actually transness, like you brought up before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And like the amount of advocacy work that needs to be done, or like,
Yep.
being involved with HRC or whatever it may be. And it's like,
Yep.
actually, some people just want to live their lives.
Mm-hmm. And it's all important and all okay.
Yeah. And like, we all don't have to do the same thing.
Yeah. Imagine
So.
that.
There's only one brand of being queer. There's only
It
one way.
sometimes feels that way, right? And that's the problem for a lot of folks.
Yeah, it's like the blue stripe of the rainbow or like the flag. That's it. You only get the
Yeah.
blue.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
get the
Oh
other
no.
colors
So
and
many
shapes.
other colors. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, have you gotten feedback from like folks who've used your workbooks and your cards, like in terms of how helpful it's been,
Yeah.
in being able to continue or like start their DBT work?
Yes, definitely. So I'm trying to think. Yes, I have. I think a lot of the feedback I've gotten more explicitly has been through social media. And some of
Mm,
those people explicitly say they've also read my books, but some of them are just talking about my social media content of like I've gotten multiple DMs from folks saying, direct messages from folks saying, I cannot find DBT around me.
mm,
Like, please keep making your videos, right? Like, thank you for the book. Like, this spoke to me in a way that like other things haven't. And I think that's also why I always am recommending and talking about the other books and resources that are out there, because the same way that different clients connect with different clients are going to connect with different resources, different authors, right?
hmm.
And the more we can make the diversity of resources available, the better for these folks, because there's so many people. And this is where I have heard directly, like, who have not been able to understand a certain DBT skill until they read the way that I wrote about it, or they
Mm,
didn't know about BPD until or like understand the difference between that and CPTSD or something like that before they saw my video.
yeah.
So yes, I think that I have gotten that feedback, and it's one of the things that has made me not go back to the therapy room because I enjoy doing this work and I've seen that it's useful. They're both useful, obviously, but like that it's been so motivating to keep going.
I super love that. Um, in terms of like the media that you're generating, do you do you have themes for it, or like is it just a
Hmm.
vibe that you wake up with and you're like, I'm gonna make a video about this and this is what I'm doing
Oh,
today?
what a great question. I think I go in waves. I also, to be clear, am in very much, I go in waves about social media in general, and I am currently in a like, it's not a part of my life worth living wave in terms of like just the content and the psyche of being in that space at all. So I will say that. I'm sure I'll go back. But when I am creating content, it comes in waves of maybe I'll get on, I don't know, like I'll feel pulled towards I want to do a series on a certain set of skills. Or obviously when my most recent book came out, I did a lot more about like queer joy and LGBTQ plus mental health specifically. But most of the time it's just following where my passion is that day. That's one of the reasons why it's one of the things that makes it more sustainable for me. And it also fits into the ways that I have been taught to teach DBT skills, which is like with self-disclosure, self-involving self-disclosure. And
Yeah.
so I'll be like using a skill in real time and then do a video on that because it's on my mind because I just used it, right? Something like
Yeah.
that.
I love that. And that's one of the things that I super appreciate about you as a content creator is that you're like so radically genuine.
Oh, cool. Nice. I'd
Yeah.
like to be. So,
Yeah. I mean, in your like DBT-ness, in your queerness, and like just your your humanity. So
thank
I
you.
think that's why people totally connect with you because you're not saying like, oh, these are skills for you. You're like,
Hmm.
yo, these are skills for all of us. Tricks for living.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah. And I don't mean to say that I don't think you can be a DBT therapist or something like this if you're not highly sensitive, but like I definitely resonate with the whole like being biologically highly sensitive part of it. And I've gotten that feedback to your point of like people who've read my book. Like one person who did DM me said,
I mean, I
nice.
agree, 100%.
I love that. Who said, like, as I read it, I could tell, like, oh, this person knows what it's like to feel completely overwhelmed, like to feel sensitive. And it's true, I do. So yeah, I just do my best. It's one of the reasons I love DBT again, of the radical genuineness and the principle to be that as a therapist. I think it's really effective.
Hmm. You know, and just to kind of bring it back to where we were a little bit ago in terms of like the experiences, like the idiographic experiences of queer folks, like, oh my gosh, like being highly sensitive, being queer, like experiencing all the stuffs that's happening. Like it's no freaking wonder why
Yeah.
emotional vulnerability is so high, why like mental health concerns are like so exquisite in our community,
Mm.
and why there is such a huge need for like lifesavers, life rafts, and also paddles to like navigate this road to finding the light or this, I don't know, I'm mixing metaphors now to figure out like
Yeah.
a life worth living in the midst of all that is so overwhelming.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's another reason why I wrote the book, because beyond that work transforming myself, working with the queer clients, it just became over and over abundantly clear how this is like DBT is not the only answer, but it's such a good fit for queer people for the reasons you just said. Like, I think, the ways that there's research showing a big overlap between neurodivergent and queer people, that there might actually be some biological something going on there in terms of sensitivity. But the ways in which we now know that chronic invalidation, like in the form of stigma and
Mhm.
minority stress, not just stereotypical, like emotional chronic invalidation, that can lead to emotional vulnerability or contribute to, right?
100%.
That queer people are more likely to be sensitive in these ways. And then it just compounds the way that we talk about in the biosocial theory. So giving queer people then the tools, the tricks of life that we aren't taught most of the time is just super powerful.
100%. And I was thinking about this in the context of radical acceptance, but I think the radical acceptance that this is how I am wired as a highly sensitive human.
Yeah.
Um, and in my queerness, like what is it that I need from one moment to the next to stay in wise mind, right? So
Hmm.
as to not let the things that are around me in my environment disrupt my joy, disrupt my
Hmm.
peace, disrupt like my goals and my values.
Hmm.
And it's the thing that I'm noticing is like sometimes it's not a really big decision. It's like an in the moment decision. And then it's like the next moment, and then it's the next moment, and then it's the next moment after that.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I've noticed in working with a lot of my queer clients is like helping them to really practice this radical acceptance of the moment and what it is that they need in the moment
Hmm.
in order to build towards, the life that they want and to navigate with intention some of the pitfalls and prompting events for
Hmm.
dysregulation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that actually speaks really well to what I described of going in waves around social media, just as like a concrete example of it in my own life of sometimes it feels really connecting and motivating and fulfilling to like provide this content and psychoeducation to people, this validation to people, and being on social media in all the ways everyone has heard about so much right now and knows personally like is draining. And there's just sometimes like I need different things as a human, as a queer person in today's world to like to be on social media or to not be on social media at a given moment. And for me, social media is value based in terms of giving, like disseminating useful mental health information and not at the detriment of my own mental health, right? So being there in that balance. And I think that as queer people, we have to do that all the time, even related to your colleague who was trying to get their client to engage in activism. Like, yeah, activism is super important and helpful and fulfilling. And a lot of queer people, including myself, get benefit from it. And it's tiring, it's hard. And so sometimes you just want to garden, like to your
Mm-hmm.
point. And and it can those these are kind of maybe big things, but in each moment, like you're saying, like just right now, can I check in with my body? Can I check in with my emotions? What do I need? What can I do just to get a little bit closer to taking care of myself? And that's going to look really differently in different moments. Like self-care is not just one thing, whatever that is.
No, and you highlight this in terms of the practice of self-compassion.
Yeah.
Right? Like being able to notice what it is that you need, like whether it's a physiological need, whether it's emotional, whether it's like cognitive, whether it's like sensory, like just taking that moment to be like, oh, this is a thing that's helpful for me in terms of staying in wise mind. And maybe my little hoop for wise mind is 10 feet in diameter today because I feel really expansive and I got great sleep and all the things. I feel really connected. And maybe it's like a foot and I'm like not moving very far from this.
Mm-hmm. And that's all okay, right?
All okay because change is constant.
Yeah, right. And the radical acceptance, like you brought up, like you need to radical, and sometimes you like really wish you could do the 10 mile, I forget what the distance was for the big one. The expansive one. You wish you could do the expansive one. You wish you were feeling expansive. And sometimes you're not. And that's how it is. And that's how it is. I was supposed to say it's okay. Like it is okay, but it's just how it is.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Well, you have given us like a ton of wisdom, and I'm so grateful for your time in this
Yeah.
space.
Thank you for this too.
Yeah, it's been super fun catching up with you. And I was just kind of curious. All right, if you were to name like, I don't know, three or five, four or five songs that like elicit queer joy for you, what is showing up in your playlist right now?
Hmm. I mean, the thing that comes to mind automatically almost always for this for me is Muna. I like love Muna, and I think that they're pretty queer. So definitely that. Um, I guess it's not a specific song, but their whole new album.
MUNA.
Oh my gosh, yes. Do you not know Muna?
I think I've seen them show up in my playlist. And also I like I'm trying to do a practice of not just listening to songs. Like I want to listen to albums.
Oh, awesome. Oh my God. Literally all of their albums. Yeah,
Okay.
I love Muna so much. I think it's all capital Muna. Yeah,
Okay. 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 I'm gonna add that to my Spotify.
love it. And then another one, oh my gosh, what is their name? Wait, I'm gonna try to find it quickly. It's so funny. I can't believe I can't remember their name. They're so good. I'm fairly certain. I hate to potentially misgender, but I hate to, but I'm pretty sure they're non-binary. And I've been obsessed with their most recent song, um, "Take Me Home" by Vincent. Also,
Oh,
all capitals, so that's funny. Um, I've loved a lot of their other music before, but that's on my playlist, and it's such a vibe. Yeah,
okay. Okay. I'm gonna check those out.
yeah.
Very fun. Um, I've been listening to lately, Jake Wesley Rogers.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, just like kind of fun, like poppy. Um, and also Orville Peck.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. I have not
Orville Peck.
listened to him. Yeah.
He has a song with Johnny Cash. Every, what is it? Every cowboy is a little bit gay or something like that. It's like so funny, like
Awesome.
hilarious. Well, amazing. I had this thought. I was like, I wonder what's on Kiki's playlist.
It's pretty diverse right now.
I
So
love it.
I also, as I'm looking at my like current playlist I'm listening to a lot, Cat's Eye is also there. And I don't know if any
Yeah.
I don't know if any of them are queer, but like they're pretty the hyperpop is like queer. So
Look, dancing. That's all we
yeah.
need.
Yeah.
Um,
I think again it speaks to like queer joy being ideographic. Like, right? Like you get to decide what queer joy is for you and what queer, if you're a queer person and you love a song, then it might be queer music. Like, not exactly that, but you know what I mean.
yeah, exactly. And look, we'll just keep it in our little like self-soothe toolkit, our like life worth living toolkit.
Exactly.
And then sometimes we'll just change out the songs. We'll change out the things.
I mean, always. Yeah.
I was reading a blog by Devin Price recently,
Oh, uh-huh.
and um they were writing about how when they experienced a ton of gender dysphoria, like they were really rigid about certain things. And now that they don't experience as much gender dysphoria, like the things that they were really rigid about, like they've been letting go. And so they
Hmm.
were just kind of describing what they were noticing in terms of this flux, like the changes in their body, like the changes in their hair, like how they're presenting and what they're like wearing. And it was just emblematic of our
Hmm.
conversation today,
Hmm.
which is like absolutely ideographic, change is constant,
Hmm.
like radically accepting one moment at a time and just really like as much as we can participating.
Yeah. I think Devin Price is like Substack has a lot of writing that is really emblematic of what we've been talking about. So I think that's a good resource to point people towards. That's not DBT specific at all, right? But is very like giving an example of what lived experience can be like for someone who has found themselves in the crossroads of these identity and life shifts that happen.
Totally. And I think they have written about having done DBT.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
Yeah. It may be like
cool.
a few years ago, but
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah, great.
awesome. Well, thanks again for your time, Kiki.
Yeah, thank you. So nice
And
to catch up.
yes, and thank you for participating in like fun shirts.
Yeah, I feel like we need to make it explicit for anyone who is still like sticking around and actually listening. We did not plan this, but I know Erica well enough that I was like, I'm gonna wear my fun shirt. And then Erica did not disappoint and wore it too. Queer joy, as you said.
Queer joy. Here we are.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, folks, for joining us. Take care.